so poor? How could a place that holds trillions of dollars in rare minerals, gems, and other resources be so incredibly impoverished? And for many, the answer is simple enough. Africa is poor because of the legacy of colonialism. The narrative usually goes something like this. Europe's great powers invaded, conquered, and pillaged Africa of its raw resources, leaving the continent impoverished to this very day. Now, more than 60 years after the end of colonial rule, the continent is still struggling to overcome decades of exploitation at the hands of the European powers. It's a compelling narrative, and many people believe it. But the problem is, it doesn't seem to be telling the whole story, and here's the proof. Consider the story of another ex-colony that gained its independence around the same time as most African nations. Singapore.
Now, listen to this bullshit that he about to get into, right? Because he's trying to refute the fact that colonization destabilized Africa, even though we know it did. But if you in the Midwest of me to say I'm in Florida. Look, we on the brink of being cold. It's Florida cold right now. It's Florida cold. So, I feel sorry for y'all. But listen to this. So he's about to compare a continent that was colonized for over 400 years to a country that was colonized for a few, maybe a decade, maybe a few decades, and left alone. So remember that a whole continent that was colonized for over 400 years is being compared to a country that was colonized for maybe a few decades and left alone, because Africa is still to this day being colonized and raped of its resources. Says that's where he's wrong. Colonialism, exactly. It hasn't ended in Africa. It hasn't, right? Hey man, look man, that's why I love my audience. We smart over here. But let's continue listening to the lies. Hold on. Let me let him say it. You lying. You ain't never met Dr. Martin Luther King. Oh, that line.
Former British colony with virtually no natural resources has risen to become one of the wealthiest nations in the world. Today, Singapore is actually richer on a per capita basis than its former colonizer. So if colonialism doesn't tell the entire story there, is there anything else that can explain why Africa specifically is so poor? Well, one interesting factor is Africa's geography. The economist Thomas Sowell points out that
and when white people mention Thomas Sowell, you know it's about to be some bullshit, but he about to blame it on geography and not white supremacy. White people be wilding, man. White supremacists be wild.
Geography has hindered the continent's development for centuries and continues to do so to this very day. For example, while Europe's long coastline and plentiful natural harbors helped to facilitate a strong maritime trade all the way back to classical antiquity, Africa has had.
But you got to remember when True Pilgrim, you got to remember when the white folk first pulled up in Africa. When they first pulled up in Africa and started colonizing.
Few of these features. In fact, the continent actually has less coastline than Europe, despite the fact that it's much bigger. It has very few deep water ports, and with the exception of the Nile, none of Africa's major rivers are easily navigable all the way to the ocean. These geographical problems create huge challenges to trade in Africa, but geography is not destiny. Just look at Botswana. This sub-Saharan country has set records for economic growth despite being landlocked in the middle of the Kalahari Desert. While Botswana does have plenty of diamonds, it lacks many of the other major natural resources, rivers, or harbors that many of its neighbors do. And yet, Botswana is one of the richest nations in Africa with a strong and growing economy. The story of both Botswana and Singapore show that the true culprits behind Africa's persistent poverty has to be something else. Now consider this. In the Tanzanian Constitution in 1965, it discussed the government's role to, quote, prevent the accumulation of wealth to an extent which is inconsistent with the existence of a classless society. This Marxist sentiment was not unusual in sub-Saharan African governments post-colonialism. The bottom line is, many former colonies have not only overcome prior subjugation, but have thrived both politically and economically. But they all seem to have something in common. Instead of trading colonialism for Marx, they adopted systems which encouraged private property rights while at the same time embracing stable governments which established dependable legal systems and then courted foreign investment. The good news is there is hope for countries still struggling to develop, but history suggests that it will come not only through political freedom, but economic freedom as well.
So it's some bullshit. True Pilgrim's comment is right on point. The pillaging of Africa never stopped. The European nations are still in control. Arabs came in, gained control. Even Asians came in, gained control over resources and things. What is he talking about? This is the blatant racism, the blatant lying that be happening right in front of our faces. Like we don't have information, like we don't read books. And they really think we don't read. They think we can't read. I know a lot of Negroes be out here acting foolish and stuff, but we all don't behave like that, right? So it's a lot of us out here who got good minds, who can think and who can read and process information and understand what the hell is going on and what somebody is telling us, and be able to say that is some bullshit. That's some bullshit. What my man told him. What my man told him.
Lying. You ain't never met Dr. Martin Luther King.
Your ass is lying, Mr. White Man. You lying. Right? We know the main reasons why the continent is in disarray right now. It's the presence of colonization. We read Destruction of Black Civilization. So now we're talking like a 6,000 year period that Chancellor Williams covered. We read that. I'm just saying. It was a big bank take little bank. Yep. Well, see, if you look at the world through a white supremacist lens, O'Neal, my dear brother O'Neal, if you look at the world through a white supremacist lens, then you will believe that Africa wasn't civilized. If you can't read and process information, if you can't find the correct information, read and process information, you will believe that Africa wasn't civilized. But that's why we read what we read over here. Check out my Monday book reviews. Y'all got to check out my Monday book reviews. That's why we read what we read, how we read, and I let you all choose the books. But that's the idea out there that there was no greatness in Africa. Nothing happened in Africa. And all of the turmoil that's happening in Africa is because of them. And this dude is blaming it on the geography and the lack of, I guess, innovation from the Africans. Just disregarding all of the history that came before the Europeans. All of the greatness that existed before then, forget it. Timbuktu didn't exist. Gal didn't exist. Tarseti didn't exist. Kush didn't exist. None of these great kingdoms, the kingdom of Zimbabwe didn't exist. None of these great civilizations and great kingdoms existed. It was all a mystery. Mansa Musa wasn't real. Samori Toure wasn't real. Sundiata Keita wasn't real. Ghana, Mali, and Songhai, that didn't exist. Come on, man. Let's stop it. That's weak because we can read and process information over here. I'm a truck driver and I'd appreciate an opportunity to speak with you. Email me. Where's that? Where I put it at? Email me. ontheshoulders1@gmail.com. Holla at me. Says we can't romanticize the place, fam. Some of it was civilized. No, I'm not saying all of it was one thing, but what we're not gonna do is act like there was no civilization. What we're not gonna do is act like we didn't build anything that was not revered by the world. We didn't have the top educational centers in the world. We didn't have like top civilization before they were ramshacked by the outsiders. I'm not saying all of Africa wasn't like that. What I am saying is we had grand civilizations before the white folks showed up. That's what I am saying. Peace, King. Hey, man, hit me up. Email me. People do be hating themselves, but that's what, when we see the world through a European lens, that's what happened, right? Anywhere will regress if it's under continued war, strife, and competing interests. I'm just saying. It will continue. It will continue to regress. What will nurture it to grow, especially under the thumb of an oppressor? How will it grow? It's toxic soil. Nothing grows in toxic soil. Comment gets a star. Anything under the rule of white supremacy that doesn't benefit the system of white supremacy and the white supremacy is siphoning from will regress. Guess you don't conduct panel discussions. Not yet. Not yet. But you know, one day, but not yet. Lying lies at the core of white supremacists. The destruction of black civilization gave me an excellent understanding of Africans that I never knew and they'd never tell. I'm just saying. But it also gave us a perspective of ourselves as well, Ricardo, of things that we should have learned from reading that book. Because I think Kobe Cambone, the video that I put out of Kobe Cambone, I believe it was him saying that we missed the lot of, I'm not saying you did, but it reminded me of what he said. Like, a lot of us missed the lessons in destruction of black civilization because we were caught up in, like, I'm so glad we learned this history, but he gave solutions at the end. But what were the lessons that you learned from the book? And one of the greatest lessons that I got from it is when black people went away from our African Center code of conduct, when we turned our backs on what we did as African people, that allowed the others to be able to come in and take it down. PH Diva, how you doing? It's going down. You know, it's going down. So you think you are an African? Come on. Hey man, look, brother. Hey, agree to disagree. Agree to disagree. Hey, agree to disagree. I'm not getting into that. Call yourself what you want. I don't get into all that. We know history. I know where I'm from and I know history. I don't get into all that. I know I'm a black person from America. I know that, but I know history as well. I know enough black folk was brought here. So I don't get into all that. So Africa was civilized, but it wasn't. But I will say though, Africa have a lot of culture and there was no right. Yeah, that was one of the biggest issues. I talk about it all the time. The tribalism that was played upon, the Europeans played upon tribalism. You are correct, O'Neal. You are correct. So let's listen to this pastor buck dancing for the white people.
Here, and I'm not going to be much longer with y'all. I understand we need to move beyond color. I'm not about that, but y'all raised it. If you start it, I'll end it for you. Don't start nothing, it won't be nothing. But we got a problem. Black people got a problem. Now we can move to color blindness and always look at the man by the content of his character, never the color of his skin. I'm down for that. You get my vote. Yay and amen. I'm for that. But before we get there, we need to hear some truth. Black people and white folk. Black people got a problem. And it's a God problem. When black people see the world, I don't care. You can train them. You can train a black man to be a physician. You can train him to be an astrophysicist. You can train him to be a lawyer, but you can't train him to understand the world. He doesn't know. I'm telling you. There's not 2 cents worth of difference between a mass murderer. There's not 2 cents of difference between a petty thief that's locked away in prison than a black doctor when it comes to understanding the world. Listen, you listen to me. We got to deal with this. And we need to begin to acknowledge it, talk about it, ask God to help us, because only God can help black people where they are. Black people had Africa, that big old continent over there. They never built one boat that was seaworthy. Not one. There's not one monument in Africa, in all of Africa. I know you're talking about Egypt. Egypt is not Africa. There are no great cities that were built. Even before the first colonization of white people coming to the shores of Africa or the slave ships, black men built nothing. No sewer system, no houses above one level, and none of them made out of stone, all of them made out of grass and wood. Black men, before the white man ever got to Africa. The worst thing that could ever happen to South Africa was when they gave it to Nelson Mandela and black folk. That was a great nation. Now, notwithstanding apartheid was wrong, we all know it's wrong. I'm against it. There should have been some other resolution, though, than turning it over to Nelson Mandela. Disease, AIDS, and crime is running wild in Johannesburg. They're killing one another over there. They're dying of sickness. The government is mismanaged. The people who ran the nation are now leaving the nation because black folk don't know how to run no nation. They don't know how, and we need to admit it. I know you don't like it, but you need to stop shucking and jiving. We got a problem. Nigeria.
It's funny he say shucking and jiving, but notice everybody's judging the state of Africa after colonization. He is, the white guy did, and these coming up are going to do that. They're looking at Africa after colonization, and then because the dismissal is Africa didn't build anything before the white people got there. That's the dismissal, even though we know like there's definitive evidence, like still in Africa, like actual physical evidence of civilizations that existed before the white people got there, right? But according to this pastor, nothing happened. Seeing the world through white eyes, right? Buck dancing for the white dollar. I'm just saying, black people have rich culture but poor unification on a large population basis, right? Like, but I think once again, black people, anybody throughout the diaspora needs to understand that as a whole, and you tell me if you found the information, because I haven't found the information, but I've yet to find information to prove that African people were united as a continent at any one point. I don't know. I haven't found that information. Different groups of people existed throughout the continent. Different groups of people had alliances and stuff, but I never found any information to say the continent as a whole, like all African people at one point saw themselves as the same. I haven't found that, so I agree with that, O'Neal. But you know, the rhetoric that this Reverend is speaking, once again, he's looked at as a respected figure, because we're gonna look at some of these comments too. He's looked at as a respected figure. He's someone that people is listening to, an authority figure, and he's preaching damnation on black people, right? Because we're not capable of building anything and running anything, because we never have and we never will. You know, according to him, the Ghana Empire never existed. You know, the Great Zimbabwe never existed. No, we don't even have to talk about Egypt. We don't even really have to get into Egypt, but you know, they always dismiss Egypt, even though we have enough information to know that Egypt, especially the greatness of Egypt, everything great about Egypt come from the black people that come from up the Nile or down the Nile, from the interior, the black people that came from the South. Oh yeah, he awful. He can go to hell in the handbasket. He said he got some valid points, and white supremacists see a Johnny Cochran as a couple steps from a Jack boy, and there was no African unification on the. Yeah. I mean, I'm not dismissing everything, but what I am saying is to talk about African people. Basically, he said a black doctor at the top of his field has the same worldview as a criminal. What? He'd never say that about white people. Like the lowest white person, I bet you he feel has a better, well, he's saying they got a better worldview than even the brightest black person. Like we know we got some throwaways, some black folk who not gonna make it, but everybody has that. But of course, everybody like to make that the main point about black folk, though. But to act like we didn't build anything, to act like black people had nothing, everything was just straw and grass, really? Come on, man. We got enough information to prove it wrong. We read Destruction of Black Civilization. We read the book. The book gave a rundown of black civilizations. I'm just saying, but all right, Reverend.
Produces oil every year, yet the children over there are hungry and pot-bellied and walking barefoot. We got a problem. You talk about the Hutus and the Tutsis. Look what's going on in Zimbabwe now with Mugabe. We got a problem, black folk. And forget about Zimbabwe and South Africa, Nigeria. Look at what y'all have done in Harlem. You can't even hold on to Harlem. We got a problem. Black folk don't understand the world. You can get mad with me all you want. You can say what you, but you can't prove me wrong. Now, I'm not saying this because I hate black folk.
Yes, you
I'm
are.
saying it because I love you enough to tell the truth. And the only person going to ever help us get out of the situation is going to be God. There's something wrong with the black man's mind. There's something wrong with his mind.
Well, I mean, I don't disagree there's something wrong with the black man's mind, but what is wrong with the black man's mind? What happened to the black man's mind, Reverend? Because, well, I guess black people just woke up one day and said, you know what? We're going to be degenerates. That didn't happen. Man, Renee, this man on that blow. This man on that heroin. This man on that toot. This man on battery acid. Shucking and jiving for the white man. That's what he doing. Shucking and jiving. This is what real coonery looks like. Why is he not? But not only that, he's overlooking everything that black people built that was destroyed by white people. And I guarantee you, he knows the information. He's deliberately omitting this information because that's what the white supremacists do. They deliberately omit the information and act like it doesn't exist, like we stupid. Come on, Reverend. Get off your knees for the white man, Reverend. You should be old enough to know by now that they're going to throw you away like everybody else. But hey.
He does not understand the world.
Damn,
he doesn't. I don't care if he learned medicine. He doesn't understand the world. He can't even hold on to Harlem. When he was here, he moved out. We got to talk to the Lord. People, we got to talk to God. And black women, Shirley Chisholm, Harriet Tubman, Coretta King, one of her boys. Yeah, okay, then we got a black president. But you black women, what's wrong with y'all? Y'all gonna let that white woman, what's wrong with you black women voting for Barack? Don't you understand? It should have been a black room if you're gonna have a black president. What's wrong with you? Y'all ain't got no sense, you black women. Your men treat you like they're dogs, like your dogs. They walk all over you. They make you pay the bills at home, and then the preachers pimp you in the churches and make you pay the bills. Y'all crazy black women buying these black men private jets.
Talk about pimping people in the churches. You're doing the same thing, though. You're doing the same thing. You brainwashing your congregation, but okay. He's not lying about the churches, but he's doing the same thing.
Doing a $50 million for a nigga to ride around in a private jet, and you talk about, look at our pastor. What's wrong with y'all women? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And what's wrong with a black man that would take that kind of money out of a poor neighborhood and buy himself a private jet? What's wrong with y'all niggas? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, black women? What's wrong with you voting for Barack Obama? What's wrong with you? What's wrong with y'all? You niggas are crazy.
So are you. So are you, Reverend Shinebone. Uptight, that's his name, Reverend Shinebone. So I wanted to give you that. I wanted to give you that because